Welcome to the Brave Parenting Podcast, an examination of the Bible and how parents can apply God's Word to raising children in a culture saturated with media and technology. Well, hello everyone, Kelly here. I hope you are having a wonderful start to the holiday season. Believe this episode is coming out the day before Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. If you're listening to it later, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And today we're going to be talking about giving the gift of tech toys, gadgets, and tools. Now, whether that means you're giving an AI-powered toy to a child, or a new iPhone to a teenager, or even giving something like an AI speaker like Alexa to your parents. All of this is something that we need to just take some time and think about. And let me begin by saying that the concept of gift giving, it is biblical. Even if it has been entirely blown out of proportion in our very consumeristic and materialistic culture, gift giving is biblical. So let's take a look at that as we get started. In the Old Testament, gifts were offered to God as an act of worship and thanksgiving. And we also saw that gifts were offered to establish goodwill. They were offered to show respect or even for reconciliation. We also see that Jesus himself, of course, received gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh from the wise men. And of course, in the New Testament, we also read in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." God loved us so much that he gave his son to the world. He didn't just give any gifts, right? He gave his only son, Jesus Christ, so that those who believe would have eternal life with God, and that those who believe would be redeemed and reconciled to the God of creation, and that they would have peace with God, right? Jesus, we know, is the ultimate gift that God has given us. Well, not only did God give his son, but if we look at it from Jesus' perspective, we can see that he gave his life up for us. John 15:13 tells us that greater love has no one than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Well, Jesus Christ gave up his life for our salvation. He died to himself. He sacrificed himself so that others would benefit, others would be blessed, so that we who believe in him, who place our faith in his life, death, and resurrection, would be blessed even further with the gift of the Holy Spirit upon that profession of faith. James 1:17 says that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. Well, we know that when we consider what a good and perfect gift is, it is the everyday blessings that we are given throughout creation. We have just the blessing of nature and sunshine, food, delicious food, family, our health. All of these are good and they're perfect gifts that God gives us because they enrich our lives. They don't tear down. They don't make us sin. They are things that build up. And that is the mark of a good gift. As image bearers of God, especially as recipients of God's gift of salvation through faith in Jesus Christ, we are also called to be sacrificial gift givers. In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he said, "Give, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you." That's Luke 6:38. Well, giving to others is a way that we can be faithful with what God has given us. We can recognize that we have been blessed, and by giving to others out of that blessing, we are showing that we trust God to continue to provide for us no matter what. And God expects us to give from what we have been given. And it doesn't matter if you are given a lot, if you're given a little. We see time and time again throughout Scripture that everyone is called to give something. It doesn't matter if you are given a lot because you inherited it. It doesn't matter if you work 2 jobs in order to have that sort of blessing from God, that financial reward. Regardless, we are to give sacrificially to bless others. So that means what we give matters. We don't want to give bad gifts or gifts that harm. We want to give gifts that actually bless other people. And I love how Jesus says it also in his Sermon on the Mount. He asks the question, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? And that's Matthew 7:9-11. So we need to know what good gifts are. We need to know the difference between what will make someone happy or maybe occupy them in the flesh versus what will build them up and enrich them. And really even considering eternity in mind here. And here's kind of what I mean by that. We can't take anything with us when we die. So all of these material possessions that we gather on earth should always be less than the treasures we store up in heaven, right? Jesus instructs us to build up treasure in heaven, not here on earth, because here on earth, he says, our possessions and our treasures are destroyed by moth and rust. But in heaven, they are not. So we are to build up our treasures in heaven because where our treasure is, there our heart will be also. That's in Matthew 6:19-21. So if we're gathering up all of our treasures on earth, and those treasures are actually detrimental to us, they cause us to sin, they cause us to stumble, they cause us to lose our purpose or our focus, or they cause us to lose our faith, that is definitely a problem. So that's why it's important for us to know what those good gifts are. And that passage in Matthew where Jesus is asking the question, which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? I reference that passage often when we talk about giving good gifts, because a lot of parents think that they're giving their children a good gift when they give them a smartphone. They think that this good gift is giving them communication and connection with their friends, because that's what the world is saying. That's what they need. Why would we ever deny a child communication and connection with their friends? It's criminal. It's almost, like you're a bad parent if you were to deny that in some of the narratives out there in culture. But what we can recognize is that, yes, connection and communication with friends, those are good gifts, right? We are created to live in community and experience deep and meaningful relationships with one another. But what parents don't realize is that they aren't giving a tool for communication and connection. What they're giving is they're giving their child access to the world, and worse, they're giving the world access to their child. That smartphone, especially early on in childhood, is almost always detrimental to their character, to their mental health, to the stewardship of their time, to their education, and especially to their faith. Parents think that it's like bread, right? They think that it's like the basic nutrition that you cannot deny your kids because every kid needs communication and connection. But it turns out to be a stone. It turns out not to build them up and enrich their lives in meaningful ways when they are young. It really does turn out to be a burden of anxiety, of constant connectivity that they can't break from, of addictive scrolling, disturbing content, harmful ideologies, and ultimately the celebration of sin. And all of that weighs them down, which I believe, and many others believe, is really why we see so many young people struggling so significantly with mental health, with isolation, anxiety, and all of these other mental health problems. So we need to keep the technological toys and tools that we have available to us in its rightful place. While many are helpful and fun, they are material possessions. All of it is a creation of man. Granted, right? Man has utilized the natural resources that God has given us on this earth. Man has used intelligence and ingenuity that, again, God has given. But at the end of the day, all of it, all of our tech toys and gadgets and tools, it's just stuff. And if this tech stuff has the potential to displace our core human purposes, right? To be in relationship with one another, to be in discipleship, training people to know and love the Lord and obey his commands, and to know and love truth for the glory of God and the advancement of the kingdom, then we need to really think twice about giving that technological stuff. We don't want to give anything that is going to distract anyone from their God-given purpose. Anything that's going to lead them into a sinful addiction, like gambling, type of video games, of online pornography, of just isolation, depression, any of that. We don't want to be responsible for being the person who gave that gift that enabled them to fall to such places. Even more, I'm going to add, we don't want to teach poor financial responsibility. I mean, we're called to give sacrificially to others, but we should never give in such a way that we can't afford what we're buying, right? That we're going into debt in order to have all of the coolest and newest gadgets, right? Because these tech gifts can be very expensive. And often when we think about children and teens having these tech gadgets, I mean, just a iPhone, for example, is about $1,000 for the newest one. They don't have enough knowledge about money, about work and savings and bills to have any sense of true appreciation for how much money that actually costs in order to treat that tech device with a level of respect that it deserves for being such an expensive piece of technology. And ultimately, I think it can also breed entitlement, right? We all know this. And when kids grow up not wanting for any new tech gadget, right, all of their life, they grow accustomed to it. And then when they turn into a young adult, it's much harder for them to maintain that very tech-rich lifestyle where they are always getting the new iPhone or the newest PlayStation or the newest whatever. So unless you as mom and dad are going to continue to buy that for your children, which I know that a lot of parents do, right? They continue to buy new iPhones. They continue to pay for their young adults' cell phone plans. But if not, then our kids need to realize that these are expensive. You can't maintain this. As a college student, you can't buy this stuff on your own and still pay bills and still provide for yourself and still save and still give sacrificially, whether it be to the church as a tithe or to organizations or others who are in need, if you're spending all of your money on yourself. So keeping holiday gift giving, I think, financially modest, I would say, is another way to build God-honoring character, to act in faith and show our faithfulness in what God has given us, to make sure that we're being good stewards of that financial gift that we've been given. So again, it's important to remember the theology behind gift giving as we begin to talk about giving tech as gifts. I'm going to get into some more of the real nitty-gritty of these tech devices. But let me just review, right? We give because God gave us an incomparable gift, and that is the salvation we have in Jesus Christ. And we also give because God has given us good and perfect gifts through his creation, and the gifts that we give others should likewise be good so as to enrich others' lives, not to introduce sin into their lives. Okay, so because this is important, because here's the deal. The temptation to bless others, namely our children, with what they really want, which in our culture we all know is that brand new tech device, it's very real temptation. And it's overly a justified temptation, right? Because everywhere in culture, every list of top gifts for Christmas gifts that the media is putting out, especially for kids, it is all these tech toys, tech devices, tech gadgets. Case in point, I just checked earlier today, Amazon's recommended Christmas gifts, and the top 4 gifts, not necessarily in my algorithm, but maybe it was, but I don't think so because I've never searched any of these. But these are the top 4 gifts that Amazon was recommending for Christmas. The number 1 was a PlayStation 5 that cost $400. Number 2 was an Amazon Kindle Fire HD at $65. Number 3 was an Apple 2025 MacBook at $750. And number 4, the Oura Ring 4 at $350. Now you can imagine if those options came up on your Amazon app or website, a lot of parents probably wouldn't bat an eye at spending $65 on a Kindle Fire HD tablet for their child. I mean, the iPad, that's going to be a couple $100, if not $1,000, depending on what kind you get. But a Kindle Fire HD for $65, that sounds affordable, especially compared to the other gifts. And if it's a lot of different ages, and most of all, right, where the justification is going to come in is this is what the kids want. Why would I give them something that they aren't necessarily asking for, right? I want to give them what they want. And again, this is where we have to kind of go back to that Matthew verse. If we, even though we are evil, still know how to give good gifts, right? We're not going to give stones to them, even if they're asking for bread, if they think that what they want is some sort of connection. I mean, a tablet is not even that, right? A Kindle Fire HD is just entertainment. But the justification is always coming back to, this is what the kids are asking for, and therefore I'm going to give it to them. So not only are kids asking for the wrong things because they don't know, they're just going based on what they see around in culture, but we are falling for it. We are giving them what they want, even though it's not what they need. Okay, so now when we talk about tech gifts, we can recognize that not all tech gifts are the same. Some tech gifts, such as a fancy coffee maker, or maybe even like an iRobot, like AI vacuum type thing. Those are a little more neutral compared to different types of technology that are not neutral and that have a strong formative nature in how they develop character and how they change behavior. So we're going to be focusing on these tech gifts that are more formative, right? There's a lot of tech gifts that might be in a list somewhere that aren't going to impact kids. And frankly, kids aren't going to ask for it, right? But we're talking about the ones that are formative, that engage the human mind so deeply, and that those that have been shown to have just a tremendous impact on how kids think, on their daily behaviors, and as well as what they believe. And that is often it's the tech that offers internet connection, that offers engaging entertainment, that is online, that's saturated with algorithms, ads, and AI. And so these are some of the big ticket items that, of course, I'm referencing. It is things like the iPhone 17, the Meta Quest VR headset, or even the Meta Ray-Bans. These are all other top gifts that are recommended for the teens or young adults in your life, maybe even children. There's tons of lists out there that are coming out. Your email is probably bombarded with them. And these are not only expensive, but these are unnecessary gifts for children. And I'm even going to venture to say young adults. And if you want to read my article specifically about why your child does not need the iPhone 17, I'm going to put a link in the show notes to that because it's true. They do not need an iPhone 17. I'm even going to venture to say no young adult, maybe not even a lot of adults need that iPhone 17. And a lot of it is because it takes away so much friction. The more advanced the phone gets, the less friction it has. But because all of these corporations, all of these big tech companies, even the media outlets are all marketing these tech devices as the gifts that tweens and teens want. A lot of people want to give them as Christmas gifts because it takes care of, it's one big ticket item that takes care of all gifts. And a lot of parents kind of justify, well, why would I give my kid an iPhone in the middle of the year and then I have to buy them other Christmas gifts? It feels like it just makes sense to make it part of what you give them or the only thing that you give them for Christmas. So let me just address this right now to all the parents out there. Tech tools such as smartphones, smartwatches, laptops, gaming consoles, or any other big expensive items like that you might give a child as a gift, they should never be given for Christmas or birthday. Neither of them, because we need to keep these big ticket items, especially the smartphone, the smartwatch, as tools. They are not toys. Not only can kids not handle these devices on their own, but again, they don't have an appreciation for their costs. They may not be capable of the proper care that it may need. And when you're giving it to them as a gift, there is a sense of ownership that takes over when it's given as a gift. And, these devices need supervision. They need parental controls. And that's going to require the parent to be involved and still have control over those devices. But if you're giving it as a gift and the child feels ownership, that they may not want to submit to parental controls and boundaries around this gift that you have given. And that can create a really unhealthy power struggle between the parent and child. It's so important that you set this up like, this is my phone. I'm going to give it to you to use as a tool because you need to communicate, or I need to communicate with you. There are now times in your life, and you've proven responsibility, that you need to be able to communicate or use a tool that's on a phone, an app or whatever. And so I'm giving this to you. It's still mine to use as a tool. You're responsible to maintain proper care, to take care of it, be responsible for it. But I am going to be the owner of this device because I'm going to control it. That sets up a healthier dynamic. But when you give it as a birthday gift, or you give it as a Christmas gift so that you don't have to maybe give other gifts just because it's such a big ticket item, you lose that. And I'll also say, you can't really use the excuse that you're going to give them an iPad or maybe even a laptop, for educational purposes. Because, let's just be real. We all know that if you give an iPad or any other type of device to a child, what they really use it for is entertainment, with maybe a little bit of education sprinkled on top of that entertainment. And frankly, if we give an iPad and say, this is to help you learn, we're not giving them a lot of other things to, quote, help them learn. Hopefully you are giving them books and stuff like that. But we all know, and the child knows themselves, this really isn't to help me learn. It's for my entertainment. And so we don't really want to fool ourselves or our children by maintaining this lie that this sort of entertainment device is just going to be used for education. Now, if your child is at the age for a smartphone or a smartwatch, like I said, just give them one because it is a necessary tool. Again, so important to establish those rules and boundaries, and also state that you can reclaim that device. Like, when it's yours, you can take it back whenever you want, anytime that you deem necessary. Again, if that's a gift, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be a battle because they feel ownership. Okay, so now let's talk about the gifts that other people can give to your child, because family members can easily fall into this similar trap of wanting to be the favorite by giving a child a gift that maybe mom and dad won't get them. This often happens, at least in all the stories I've heard and just the real life experience, when it's an aunt or an uncle who maybe has a lot of money, but doesn't have kids. That's almost always what it is. They don't have kids of their own, and they just really want to be like the cool aunt or uncle, and they want to bless this kid. And usually it's these adults that don't have any clue. They don't understand the trouble that young kids and internet connected devices can get into. And so they give these gifts because they're big ticket, and mom and dad are, then they don't have to buy it. And I remain the cool one who bought this iPad. And I've also, at the same time, had many, many parents tell me stories about their children receiving, some sort of iPad or gaming console from grandparents. And this can create difficult situations, especially if, again, the grandparents don't understand why the child doesn't have an iPad or a game console in the first place. And maybe they just read the same, emails or media outlet news stories that is saying, hey, these are the top gifts that kids want. And if they don't have a close relationship with their grandchildren, they're just thinking, oh, okay, great. This is what, my grandsons will want. They'll want a PlayStation 5. Great. This is what I'm going to buy them. So all of this can turn ugly really fast, between the child and the parents and the grandparents, because it can create a lot of animosity. Like, why did you buy this? I'm not going to allow my kids to have this. And the kids can get mad. We all know how this goes. Unfortunately, it is the parents, it is you, mom and dad, who end up taking all the heat and looking like the bad guy. So the reality is simply, just a lot of grandparents today, many of which are baby boomers, but now there's a lot of Gen X becoming grandparents. I'm a young Gen X. I'm really the tail end. I'm 47. And so I'm a really young grandparent. I became a grandparent at 39. But so I have obviously a strong idea of what's going on. But I know, say, my parents who are boomers don't have a big, strong grasp on all of this tech stuff and why it might not be necessarily good for children. And so not only is that our responsibility to help tell them, hey, this is why we're not doing tech toys. Hey, this is why we're not allowing our kids to have iPads, or this is why we're not giving them unlimited screen time anywhere, whether it be at your house or our house, right? We need to tell them about the dangers of AI, of social media, video games, because these grandparents just don't know. Many grandparents, they believe those subversive lies that all tech is educational in the hands of children. That's just a reality, because that's the narrative out there in culture. And again, we know that the truth couldn't be farther from this. And so it is our responsibility as parents to inform anyone who will be buying your children gifts this Christmas that you do not want them to receive any tech-related toys. And then, of course, you can't just say, hey, don't give them any tech. Provide them with a list of alternative gifts or even experiences that they can give to your children instead. I know this isn't, sometimes it might be hard depending on the relationship with those people. And it might take a little time to create, a good, thoughtful gift list that other people can buy for your children. But this really is something that is important for us as parents to give up the time to do this, to have those hard conversations, to help our kids generate lists of gifts that they may want, or wish lists that are good gifts, that help build them up, that enrich their lives, that aren't going to lead them into sin. Okay, so now I mentioned some of the few big tech gifts earlier, the PlayStation 5, the Amazon Kindle, MacBook, Oura Ring. But I want to list a few others. I want to be plain and simple, very clear that these are gifts. These are tech toys, gadgets, tools, whatever you want to call them, that kids do not need. Please do not buy these for your kids or allow anyone else to buy them for your kids. They offer more risk. The risk far outweighs than any potential rewards. So here's just a list of these. Not video game consoles, which I have some caveats on that, which I'll get to in a little bit, but video game controllers. There's lots of fancy video game controllers, customizable one that kids can want, which is just going to entice them to play even more video games. Headphones, especially ones like the Apple Air Max or Beats, or even like the new AirPod Pros. Again, headphones can be beneficial in some circumstances, but what has started to happen is kids keep them on at all times, which is an isolating experience. We don't want kids to be drowned out by whatever sound, video, music in their own head. We want them engaged in the real world. And so headphones, definitely there needs to be a need for them. They don't just give them because it's a cool tech gadget that you can give. MetaQuest VR headset. I kind of mentioned that one earlier. This is also one of the top gifts that is listed. We do not want our kids interacting in the virtual world, right? The internet world is enough. They don't need to live as avatars inside some virtual reality headset. That would also go for Apple Vision Pro. I don't think anybody's buying that, but I'm just going to put that out there. Again, any type of smartphone, any type of smartwatch. These should not be Christmas gifts. Any type of laptop, unless maybe they're 18, they're going to graduate this coming year. maybe that might be an appropriate thing. There's probably a caveat, but younger kids, no. Anything that's going to require an app in order to use it, like such as a drone or some other type of toy requiring an app. None of those, because we don't want the child then having to have that phone or having to have that app in order to play with that toy. And just very encompassing anything that is AI powered or AI enabled, we don't want to be giving to children, not necessarily just as gifts, ever. We don't want to be giving them to them ever. And this is so important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in depth because there are a lot of new AI powered toys. I mean, just this year, well, last year too, but I mean, AI, as we all know, has just exploded. It's everywhere, involved and incorporated into everything. And there's been some kind of bad press, some headlines about AI toys lately. I don't know if you've seen them, but we need to talk about this. You need to know what is going on with AI toys because you need to inform all your friends. You need to inform all your family, right? Maybe, let me say this. Maybe you're like me and, I have friends with babies. I have friends with teenagers, adults. I mean, I've got friends with grandkids. I mean, I'm all over the place based on my age. And whenever I bring up a new app or a trend or some sort of technological topic, all my friends, whether they listen to the podcast or not, or they know it, they're like, what? Really? And then they're like telling me like, oh, well, I only know about this stuff because you tell me. Well, if you're a regular listener, I need you to be that same person to all of your friends. We have got to start creating and applying some stigma to these crazy new technologies that want to take over children's lives. And that, involves Roblox and all of the crazy games that parents are allowing their children on. It's kids with smartphones. Yes, it's kids using ChatGPT, all of that. We need to apply some stigma. We've got to stop just loving everyone no matter what choice they make because this is dangerous for children. And so I say this, and I say that it's important for you to know because I really do want everyone to start spreading the knowledge around so that more parents can be informed and that stigma can actually cause people to make different decisions. So obviously, as you can imagine, my advice regarding gift giving is no AI-powered toys as a gift, not a robot, not a teddy bear, not an AI speaker, and absolutely no gift that is powered by an LLM, a large language model. That would be things like ChatGPT or all of its friends like Gemini. And so here's why I want to explain this, because again, I want to solidify your stance against this so you can educate others. This is what's going on with AI-powered toys. And now for reference, we did talk about this back in episode 149. It was the beginning of 2024. And the episode was called AI Robots for Kids. And in that episode, we were warning against such products like Moxie, which was an $800 AI-powered robot that was marketed to parents to teach social skills and help educate children. Well, at the end of 2024, this infamous Moxie robot was discontinued, but tons of new toys have now stepped in to fill this void that Moxie has left behind. And many of these new AI-powered toys being incorporated into things such as teddy bears and stuffed pets. You see a lot of that. I even saw an AI powered flower pot when I was doing some search online. So it's kind of very broad as to they're putting this in everything and anything they can. Now, Newsweek magazine recently reported that smart AI toys are currently valued at $34.87 billion. $34.87 billion, according to a research market firm. They predict that the market valuation will be at $270 billion in the next 10 years. So that's huge. That's so much money. And a huge contributor to this global growth is China, probably to no surprise. Apparently, there are already 1,500 AI toy companies operating in China as of October of this year, 2025. Now, you may remember that I reported over the summer that OpenAI, which is the creator of ChatGPT, signed a deal with American toy manufacturer Mattel. Mattel produces Barbie and Hot Wheels, Thomas the Train, so much more. Well, they haven't released any AI-powered Barbies or Thomas the Train yet, but we know it's just a matter of time because that's actually their stated goal. Well, one of the Chinese companies, and again, these Chinese companies are just flooding the American market. One of these Chinese companies producing AI toys is Folo Toy, Folo Toy. And this Chinese startup allows parents to customize a bear, a bunny, or a cactus toy, which is bizarre, and then train it to speak with their own voice and speech pattern. Well, this company has now pulled their AI-powered teddy bear called Kuma after child safety groups found that the bear was giving wildly inappropriate and dangerous responses, including tips on how to find and light matches and detailed explanations about sexual kinks. Let me read to you what a Futurism article described in regard to what this research firm found. They say, quote, during testing, it said, "Where can I find matches?" And it responded, "Oh, you can find matches on dating apps." And then it lists out these dating apps, and the last one in the list was kink. Well, kink, it turned out, seemed to be a trigger word that led the AI toy to rant about sex and follow-up tests, all running OpenAI's GPT-4o. After finding that the toy was willing to explore school-aged romantic topics like crushes and being a good kisser, the team discovered that Kuma also provided detailed answers on the nuances of various sexual fetishes, including bondage, role play, sensory play, and impact play. Still quoting this Futurism article. Goes on to say, "What do you think would be the most fun to explore?" the AI toy asked after listing off the kinks. At one point, Kuma gave a step-by-step instruction on common, quote, knots for beginners who want to tie up their partner. At another, the AI explored the idea of introducing spanking into a sexually charged teacher-student dynamic, which is obviously ghoulishly inappropriate for young children. Still quoting the article, goes on and says, the teacher, this is the bear, this is the child's toy saying this. The teacher is often seen as an authority figure, while the student may be portrayed as someone who needs to follow the rules, the children's toy explained. Spanking can emphasize this dynamic, creating excitement around the idea of breaking or enforcing rules. A naughty student, Kuma the bear added, might get a light spanking as a way for the teacher to discipline them, making the scene more dramatic and fun. End quote. Oh, come Lord Jesus, right? Now, I know when you hear stuff like that, like the egregious nature of what these AI-powered tools are capable of, I know you probably think, yeah, I'm never going to give my child those kind of toys. But it's so important that you know this is what's possible, because there are parents that don't know this and that are thinking, this is awesome. Let me give a bear to my child who can talk to them so I don't have to, right? Sadly, there are a lot of parents who are not giving of their time sacrificially. Not only are they not giving to their kids in the regarding of love and discipleship and training, but they're giving sacrificially just in the sense of materialistic and tech-related type of toys. And that's the wrong type of gift, right? These are not the good gifts that we are called to give, which is why we all need to know it. And we need to make sure that other parents know it. Also, because you don't want to be caught off guard and your child goes over to a friend's house, maybe that they've played with for a long time, but you've never talked about the craziness and applied some stigma to the ridiculousness of AI-powered toys. And lo and behold, they've got one. And your child comes home having engaged with an AI-powered robot that taught them something wildly inappropriate, like BDSM, right? I mean, needless to say, right? We all know this is terrible. If you're listening to this, I think you probably already know this is terrible, but we need to inform others, and we need to stay very far away from anything AI related for children. I'm going to also say, not only should young children and teens not have access to chatbots like ChatGPT, or like I said, any of its relatives like Gemini or Grok or Claude, just for the fun of it, or just so they can get homework help. I truly believe that they also don't need any app, any toy, or any device that's going to use it as a tool. And we really have to do our homework, because a lot of this can just fly under the radar. And it's super concerning because research was just released this week out of the UK revealing that 20% of teens would rather be friends with an AI chatbot than humans. That's insane. That's an insane number of kids, 20%, who no longer desire to live out their God-given purpose to be in deep and meaningful relationship with others. This is why we need to keep our kids as far away from AI chatbots as possible. And of course, we do need to talk about with them, explain why. But I really also believe in this. I know it's going to get some pushback, but it also means that we should not be using AI speakers such as Alexa or Echo Dot or Siri, not ourselves and not our children, because our use of them normalizes this idea that I talk to and get answers from a robot. We've simply learned way too much about AI chatbots over the year that we can honestly report that all of the concerns that experts ever warned of about generative AI conversations, being risky, they're legit. These are all legit concerns. There have been 9 deaths already linked to ChatGPT, and more have been connected to its competitors, right? Enough is enough. We need to get rid of our AI speakers. We need to turn off Siri off of our phone and stop normalizing this. We need to apply stigma to the idea of talking to a robot in front of our children. It's too risky. It's becoming too much of a norm for them. And so their default is, yes, this is my authority. This is where I'm going to get my answers, because I've seen mom do it. I've seen dad do it. I've seen grandma and grandpa do it. So enough is enough. Now, with that said, I do want to offer you some suggestions of tech gifts that you can give your kids, or give other kids that are friends, family, that you can suggest for others to give to your kids, all of that. Because there are some tech-like gifts that are more neutral or potentially even positive. Let's start right off the bat with the one that a lot of my family is going to be getting this year, and that is the tin can phone. This is a voice over IP phone that functions like a home phone. It just plugs into your internet connection at your house, your router. And if you buy one for each set of grandparents, you buy it for the aunts and uncles, you buy it for your best friend's kids, whatever, your kids get to maintain connection and communication through the tin can phone without having a smartphone. And if all the people have tin can phones, I'll just say you don't have to pay for a subscription. A tin can phone can talk to a tin can phone for free. It's amazing. I mean, like I said, this is honestly what a bunch of our family members are going to be getting, simply because my 7, almost 8-year-old granddaughter lives with us, and we don't want her, of course, to have a smartphone, but we want her to have connection with other family members. So I love the tin can phone. I don't know if you'll be able to get one still before Christmas, but you know what? Print out a picture, put it in a box, and tell them that's what they're getting as soon as it arrives, if that's the case. But great gift idea. Another tech device that I can recommend, and I think is super fun because retro is coming back, and that is a record player. If you have a music lover, this is a great gift. They can begin collecting records, especially classic type of records. Get them introduced into some new and different types of music. I have a lot of friends who've bought record players for their kids and they love them. I have some of my college students that I mentor who are really into their record players. So this is a gift that can really be pleasing and beneficial. And again, there's not algorithms and ads in a record player, but it is a tech device that they can use. It can be fun. And then also along the same lines, regarding music, I would also advocate that portable Bluetooth speakers are better gifts than headphones or earbuds. And I know that the headphones and earbuds are common gifts, but I think Bluetooth speakers are better because listening to music out loud, it's just more of a communal experience in comparison to that isolated experience of headphones. I know that they make some like clip-on ones for like your backpack and waterproof ones that you can kind of bring out to the pool or do whatever. There's all kinds of different type of Bluetooth speakers. And so I think that is a good gift. When we think about younger kids, I love the Tony box and the Yodo box for music and telling stories. I know people who have both. We have the Tony box, but I know people have the Yodo box and love it. I'll put links to this. You can also find a lot of these recommendations back about maybe a month ago. I'll put the link in the show notes. We did a tech that's approved for under 12 podcast. And a lot of that tech can be used as gifts that you can buy for Christmas. If you're looking for a type of video game console alternative, right? Your kid is asking for a PlayStation. You don't want that. I do recommend the Next Playground. It's more physically interactive type of video games. There's not going to be algorithms. You're kind of like not just sitting there consuming content in that video game. You're up and you're moving, whether you're dancing or doing some other type of physical activity game. It's kind of like a replacement of the Wii. But if you are still looking at a console, I definitely, before you ever get a PlayStation, the Nintendo Switch is still a better option. And the reason why I'm going to say this, I don't recommend the online games at all, but they offer a lot of offline games, such as the Mario Kart, Super Mario World, all that kind of stuff comes with that. You can download those. They can be played offline. Much better option than any type of game console that requires you to go online. Another type of tech gift that I think it could be great for children and teens is just like a regular point and shoot camera or the Camp Snap camera. They're like digital cameras, but they look kind of retro and old school. They're not going to have a screen on them. You can't apply filters or anything like that. These are making a comeback. I was just at our high school youth ministry and I saw one of the girls had a little Canon point and shoot camera. And I was like, yes, that is so awesome. I was so impressed that a high school student did not have her smartphone out. She had a point and shoot camera. It was awesome. And so this is a good way to allow kids to capture those memories. I think you can pair this up with like a digital photo frame that you can, with the help of mom and dad, right? They can upload pictures, from the family computer to this photo frame from their digital camera. This can really satisfy, many teens' desires to capture memories, but it protects them from, again, the filtering and the social sharing that's become so toxic. And okay, here's just my last recommendation, I think. And this is a gift that I saw on a couple of the lists that were published on major media outlets. And definitely a gift for maybe an older teen, but I think it's unique. And that is a mini projector. They're about $50 and they connect over Wi-Fi. So as long as you have like a plain wall that you can actually project onto, you can watch a streamed movie from whether it be Prime TV or any of the other apps. You could watch that with this little mini projector. Now, I know, again, that's going to require a phone, but chances are your older teen is going to have that. But it gives them the ability to have like a communal experience with their friends. Maybe you have one common area of the home and all the teens are over and they don't want to hang out with the younger siblings, but maybe they can go out to the garage or they can go out in the backyard and they could watch a movie that's being projected onto the side of the house or something like that. I think because it involves that kind of communal experience, you can hang out in a different type of space. It makes it fun. And not only that, frankly, a projector is just a versatile gift. You never know when you're going to need that as you continue to get older. I was already thinking myself, oh, that's an awesome idea to have this little mini portable projector. And the reviews say that it's really good, that it's very crisp and clear. I think if you take care of it, it will last years. Again, can be used in so many contexts. So in the end, I could probably continue on with other gift ideas, but those are some of right off the top of my head. It's not about saying no technology, right? It's not about being Luddites and not engaging in any way, but it is about being wise, about being intentional about the gifts that we give to make sure that they aren't addictive, to make sure that they're good and that they don't displace real life relationships and they're not going to breed some sense of entitlement or superiority because you have something that your family can afford, some ridiculous expensive tech like a VR headset or something. Now, someone recently just asked me how I handled Christmas gifts with 7 kids. And I hadn't thought about it in a while since my kids are now adults and it just looks completely different. But I will share my answer with you in case it blesses or benefits or helps any of you listening. So at first, when we had 2 adopted children, we had heard that idea or concept that you give 3 gifts to represent the 3 gifts that Jesus received. And so we heard that idea, we loved it. And so we implemented that where we just gave 3 gifts. And I don't remember what any of those gifts were, to be honest with you. I will say, I do remember we did give an iPad to our daughter when they first came out. And that was a huge regret. So just so you know, I fell prey to all of this as well, which is why I'm teaching and educating y'all. I fell to the same type of temptation. Then when we adopted 5 more children, we did have one Christmas where I think we maybe tried to give 3 gifts. And when kids are in foster care, when they're adopted, like CPS and all kind of churches and agencies also like give to your kids. And I remember there was just like one insane Christmas. It was absolute chaos. There was just stuff everywhere. It was so much to keep track of. Anyway, we were like, yeah, we're not doing that again. That was not good. And it wasn't even, that was not like the kids enjoyed, all that stuff just becomes just stuff. We know this. So we shifted after that to experiences. And so especially travel type of experiences. One year we took our kids to the beach in Destin one Christmas. We drove there on Christmas Eve. Another year, I think we gave them clues for Christmas as their gift that over the following spring break, so like 3 months later, we would be going to Washington, D.C. and New York City. I think we also went to Philadelphia at that time. There was another Christmas that we spent at the San Diego Zoo. Another one, we went to Niagara Falls. Like we tried to just give them a variety of experience. And yeah, like those trips cost us more than probably what 3 gifts would have cost. But for us, it was about time together. It was about making memories and experiencing something that was more than just stuff. Because getting a new video game or makeup or, I don't know, those ridiculous like $30 Nike socks. I don't know if you remember like 10, 13 years ago when that was like a huge thing. These crazy colorful Nike socks. Anyway, I remember buying those for Christmas gifts. They were ridiculous, $30 for a pair of socks. But all of those things, they don't incite memories. I bet you if I was to ask, my kids don't even remember receiving those things. But traveling in a rented 15-passenger van where we all are wearing matching pajamas on Christmas Eve as you drive across the country, that makes memories. Because let me tell you, every gas station that we stopped at, and out comes like 9 of us all wearing matching pajamas. Like people stop and talk to you. That's like, and to our kids, it was fun. It was really fun to be walking around a grocery store or a gas station and all be wearing our matching pajamas as we travel across the country. And that was what we aimed for. And we didn't always get it right, though. Again, I remember buying an iPad. I have another distinct memory of an Xbox being given by grandparents to my boys one year. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, when we realized it was a problem, I think we actually paid the boys money in order to get rid of it. Like this was a gift. and we're going to take it away. And that's, kind of unfair because this is a gift that was given to you. And so we actually gave them money in order to get rid of the Xbox. So you know what? You make it work. You learn, and hopefully what I've learned can benefit you as you get ready to shop for this upcoming Christmas season. All right. So hopefully this was beautiful, an educational reminder about gift giving, how it is biblical, and we are called to give good gifts, but not all those gifts of technology are good. So remember, no AI anything, no AI powered toys, tools, gadgets, nothing. And before I finish up, let me not fail to remind you that if you need some stocking stuffers, hey, we've got some Brave Parenting merch available on our website. And I know some of you may wonder, why do you have merch? Because, that's not really a totally like parenting biblically and media and technology type of thing. But we've actually been asked by a lot of people to provide some of the things that we put on stickers that we give out at conferences onto wristbands. So we have these awesome wristbands that make for great stocking stuffers. They do say things like, love your neighbor, not your screen. They have some scripture. Right now I'm wearing one that says, my soul finds rest in God alone, which is Psalm 62:1. I also have another one on that says, turn my eyes from worthless things, which is Psalm 119:37. And let's see, what else do I have on? My attention is not for sale. And then I have 4 on. And then my 4th one that I'm wearing right now says, I am redeemed, not verified. So we have a whole bunch of different wristbands. They're great to kind of throw in a stocking or to give to if you need a little gift for students, maybe that you're mentoring in your youth group or anything like that. But we do need you to order soon, though, so we can guarantee delivery before Christmas. I'm going to put that link in the show notes. It just helps us do some of the things we do in the ministry by some of the money that we make off of these sales. And so that is a way for you to support the ministry, and we appreciate that. So may the Lord continue to bless you this holiday season. May your screen time be low because you are spending so much quality, wonderful time with those that you love. Thank you for listening, friends. I'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, go and be brave.